Well, let's start with the first speaker. It's very interesting. So it turns out that our first speaker, Rod Mckinnis, is a huge mafia buff. I know, isn't that interesting? You want to pay attention, trust me. It's no wonder, really, since he grew up in Al Capone's old neighborhood. And apparently, growing up where one of the most notorious American gangsters once roamed isn't the scariest thing Rod has ever done. Nope. When we asked Rod what was the scariest thing he'd ever done with his career, he shared that it was actually starting his business without a major client. And I think we can everybody can relate to this. It's scary like hell to start our business without a major client. But he survived on faith, perseverance, ramen noodles, Mr. Noodles to us, and a pretty amazing wife. And he says he wouldn't change a thing. Good news, Rodney, no Mr. Noodles on the menu today. From the selling cups of lemonade in front of his parents' Southside Chicago home to growing a multi-billion-dollar business unit of TD Waterhouse 50% in just 18 months, Rod Mckinnis has been in sales his entire life. His book, Sales is Simple, From Luck to Leverage, was an Amazon bestseller. He's been regarded as the next generation sales expert by Selling Power magazine, and strategically brilliant by US and international sales leaders. He's now a partner with research-based solutions, and he's transforming the world of sales as we know it. Please help me in welcoming Rod Mckinnis.
You guys hear me okay? All right. Well, I first want to thank Greg and Stephanie and the team for the invitation to come out to speak to you today. I feel like I'm among royalty in Canada. So I do appreciate the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I bring you greetings from Phoenix, Arizona. It's a little warmer back there. I've been out in Phoenix for the last 16 years. I'm originally from Chicago, as Martin had mentioned, and somehow I got a sneaky suspicion Mr. Noodle is not going to be the last time. That's not going to be the last time I hear Mr. Noodle for today. So I want to thank you guys for that. But yeah, I've been out in Phoenix for the last 16 years. My wife and my two kids. My wife, she and I have been married for 18 years. Same woman, 18 years. She has a great right hook. I have two boys. 16 and 13, soon to be 14. And my oldest actually was ranked 17th in the country for basketball as an 8th grader. Thank you. Thank you. My youngest, now get this kid is 6'4" at 13. Size 16 shoe. He's gonna be a big boy. So needless to say, the retirement planning in the Mckinnis household is going very well right now. But I got a lot to cover, and I have a short time. I only have 60 minutes, but I want to just get into it. So as we talked about in terms of my bio, let me just give you some background how all this gets started. Back in Chicago, when I got out of grad school, I joined the brokerage industry at the time. And for those of you, well, you all know, it's not an easy industry to get into right away. And so I had an opportunity to bounce around to a couple of firms and ended up at Waterhouse Securities back in 1992. And at that time, the industry was a little different. We were very reactive organization. And we had to figure out how to become proactive. Because in 1996, a small company from Canada by the name of Toronto Dominion came and made Larry Waterhouse an offer he couldn't refuse. And he bought Waterhouse Securities. And given the nature of Toronto Dominion and the fact that they were looking for ways to drive more shareholder value, they wanted us to be part of the engine to drive that value. But there was a problem. Because we were reactive, we really were not proactive in sales and generating revenue. So we had to get smart about what we did. We made a lot of mistakes in that transition. And long story short, during the transition, I was exposed to a methodology and a set of concepts that in my last stint with that firm enabled me to grow a multi-billion-dollar business unit 50% in just 18 months. And that is not by luck. I'm going to share with you some of the things that we did to actually grow that business that fast, okay? As you mentioned before, I actually wrote a book about it, Sales is Simple from Luck to Leverage. I'll have some copies available after or during the break. And from that experience, I was able to go out and become partners with a group of people. And now we're going out and talking to organizations throughout the globe, as a matter of fact, and helping them improve their overall sales results. I had an opportunity to go out to Milan, Italy, and speak to 200 executives on how to improve sales. We have a 100% success rate with all the companies that we've engaged with. We don't miss. So I'm going to share with you exactly how we do that. All right, so I know it's early in the morning, and Martin did a good job of getting you guys awake, but I want to crinkle the cortex just a little bit if I can. And I love a very interactive session, so feel free to participate. Can you guys participate with me? All right, all right. So what I'd like for you to do is take a look at the sequence of these numbers. Take a look at the sequence of these numbers, and based on the sequence of the numbers, who can tell me what explains the sequence of the numbers? Here's your hint. The answer is amazingly simple. What explains the sequence? The answer is amazingly simple. All right, I know I'm in a room full of salespeople, financial professionals, so put a little incentive out there. I got a fresh greenback for the person that gets this right. That's a dollar bill, by the way. Don't get too excited. We're still coming out of this whole recession thing, right? But what explains the sequence? The hint is the answer is amazingly simple.
Up one, down two, up one, down two, up one, down two.
The answer is amazingly simple. No, good guess. That's not right. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Anybody? All right. The answer is they're in alphabetical order. 854-97632. They're in alphabetical order. I told you the answer is amazingly simple. Why have a riddle like this, and what does this have to do with sales? Listen, gang, if you pay attention to the things that I cover today, your ability to influence your clients and prospects will become amazingly simple. Okay? The ability to influence your clients and your prospects will become amazingly simple. But I first have to warn you, the things we're going to talk about flies against the grain of conventional sales wisdom. Okay? So I need everybody to have an open mind as you receive this information. So I'm going to ask everybody to raise their right hand. Repeat after me. Rod, I will receive this information, with an open mind. Okay, we can proceed. All right, so here's another riddle for you. There was a company that grew revenue to $7 billion a year without spending $1 on major TV advertisement for its main product. What company do you think that is? Costco, not Costco, not Facebook. Well-known company. Not Walmart. Starbucks. When was the last time you saw a Starbucks coffee commercial advertising just the coffee? You haven't. Why not?
They don't sell coffee.
They don't have to. Why not? How did they get to that point?
They don't sell coffee.
You're close. But how does Starbucks generate so much revenue? without spending any money on advertising? Quality? Experience. The customer experience. How many of us have gone to a Starbucks coffee shop? What happens when you walk into a Starbucks? Chances are you're going to be in the back of a line, right? But the line usually moves pretty efficiently, right? By the time you get in, there's some light music or light jazz playing in the background. You look out in the landscape, you see people sitting in comfortable furniture, having effective meetings, sometimes interviews. By the time you get to the front of the line, the barista is there with an abundance of energy ready to prepare your drink. Sometimes too much energy before that first cup of coffee, right? And if you go there often enough, they know you by your name, know how you like your drink prepared, and have it properly prepared for you, just the way you like it. Many people will confuse that with customer service, but it's the customer experience. Let's talk about that for a second. So, again, I'm from Chicago, and I kid you not, whatever season we were in, downtown Chicago, when people walk down Michigan Avenue, again, winter, spring, summer, fall, they would turn the logo of that cup as they walk past you to know that I just went to Starbucks. The customers have become advocates for the business. They sell for the business. The cups themselves have become status symbols, if you will. It was cool walking around with a Starbucks cup. It created a customer loyalty that was so strong that we didn't mind paying a 280% premium for the coffee. Think about it. You can get coffee anywhere for $1. Many of us choose to go to Starbucks and pay about $5 for a cup of coffee because of the customer experience. How many of us would like to have that type of business where it didn't matter what we charged, people would pay for it because of the experience that we offer? Okay, we're going to talk about it. Okay? So, how do we get to that experience? What you have to understand, gang, in today's world, buyers are different. It used to be you can have the lowest priced product and be able to come into a marketplace, have the lowest price, and crush the competition. That's no longer the case. Buyers are more sophisticated. With the influx of the internet and the global economy, buyers are very sophisticated. What do I mean by that? You used to have to just meet the business need. How many of us have heard that before? To be successful in sales, you have to meet the customer's needs, right? We've all heard that. But I'm here to tell you today that the game has changed. Not only do we have to meet the business need, but we also have to meet the emotional need. You have to meet both business and emotional needs. If you do both, that's where the magic happens. And that's what I'm going to share some time with you today to talk about how to meet that emotional need of your customers. So let's do this. Take a look at this picture. And let's just imagine for a second that you have an appointment with the person that owns this office. They're sitting in that leather chair behind the desk. And based on what you see, how would you begin the engagement? How would you engage this person? How would you start the conversation with this person? What do you think? Tentatively? Somebody said they move the chairs in front of the desk? Okay, that's another question. Where would you sit in this particular situation? You offer Starbucks, that's a good start, right? But where would you sit? Would you sit in the left chair? How many would sit in the left chair? Okay, how many would sit in the right chair? How many would stand? How many would move the chair? Okay, all right, interesting. All right, let's come back to it. What I want you to understand, gang, is that as sales professionals, we all have a selling style, whether you realize it or not. In a minute, I'm going to show you how your style was created. But I also need you to understand that when it comes to being a high-performance salesperson or a high-performance sales professional, we usually have two things in common. We have a big E and we have a big G. What do you think the E stands for? No, Martin actually touched on it in the opening. Energy. Top salespeople have an abundance of energy. We realize that sales is not necessarily a 9-to-5 job. How many of you actually work 9 to 5? That's what I thought, okay? But we also have a big G. What do you think the G stands for?
Goodness.
Not goodness, goal. In other words, goal-oriented. Top salespeople have an abundance of energy and they're extremely goal-oriented. They know exactly what they want to accomplish within a specific time frame. But there's a challenge sometimes that comes along with this. Sometimes, instead of having your energy go towards getting the goal achieved, something becomes more important. And that something is an emotional need that we all have. As humans, we all have emotional needs. Okay? What I'm going to share with you is that in sales, we find that there are 4 specific emotional needs that have an impact on sales productivity. And I'm going to introduce them to you. The first one is the need for control. The need for control. In other words, very controlling. The second one is the need for attention. We refer to these types of people as performers. I'm going to get in more depth here in a second. Then there's the need for information. We refer to them as analyzers. Very informative. And then there's the need for acceptance. We refer to them as empathizers. So these are the 4 selling styles, if you will. The need for control, the need for attention, the need for information, and the need for approval or acceptance. And sometimes as salespeople, one or more of these emotional needs will become more important in our sales process, in our sales interactions. And whether you realize it or not, you could be positively influencing your interactions or negatively influencing your interactions. Here's what I mean. I'm going to share some things with you. So if you look at the 4 quadrants and the different emotional needs, let's start with the commander quadrant, the control quadrant. We refer to them as commanders. These people love to construct and build. They love to take control. They love to make decisions. They love to be business heads or department heads or heads of state. When you think about people like this, think about people like, you guys ever watch the Idol franchise, the American Idol? Do they have a Canadian Idol here? Okay. I don't watch them. You know, when my wife is watching, I may walk past the TV and kind of glance at it. But there was this one guy on that show by the name of Simon Cowell. Anybody familiar with Simon? All right. Simon is the perfect prototype of what a commander looks like, sounds like. Very direct in his communication. Didn't hold anything back. He was right between the eyes when he was giving feedback to the contestants. Right? All right. So that's what a commander looks like, sounds like. Let's go down to the analyzer. Analyzers are very informative. Everything is black and white in their world. They love process. They love order. They love structure. They love data, charts, graphs, research. They love watching news informative programs, CNN, CNBC. They love technology. A perfect prototype of an analyzer would be someone like Bill Gates. Okay? Then you have the performers. I love the performers, actually. My 2 sons, they both are performers. Performers have a very high need for attention. They need to be seen and heard. They need to feel like they're the center of attention. They also need to feel like that the world evolves around them. Anybody else know people like this? If it's one of your coworkers and you sit next to them, don't say anything. All right? But performers, again, they're very competitive, very playful. They love to work hard but play hard. Okay? So let me think of people. Donald Trump, Floyd Money Mayweather, Jim Cramer. Anybody watch CNBC? Jim Cramer. The Kardashians. Just pick one. Just pick any one of them. Right? That's what a performer looks like, sounds like. And then you have your empathizers. Your empathizers are very warm, gentle, friendly people, great listeners, great listeners. They don't want any conflict in the environment. They want everybody to sing Kumbaya and be even keel, right? They really get disturbed when people don't like each other in an office. People like this would be people like Oprah, Katie Couric, great interviewers, okay? The thing I want you to understand, gang, as salespeople, is that we all have these. We all have it. We all have these emotional needs as salespeople. But somehow in our experiences, in our environments, in our upbringing, some of these emotional needs have become more dominant than others. And with that dominant behavior in place, intact, and you being in sales, that creates your selling style. For example, if you're an analyzer, you have a high need for information, and you're in sales, you're more likely to over-deliver information in your interactions. I'll give you a classic example. We have an assessment tool that tells us exactly where people fall in terms of their selling styles that we use when we engage with organizations. And we were engaging with this organization in Texas, in Houston, as a matter of fact. Actually, it was Galveston. And there was one gentleman that we were told, don't worry about this guy, work with these 5 other guys, because this guy is not going to be here too much longer. We said, oh, okay, you're the client, we'll do what you say. We started working with the other guys. But this guy, Connie, came to us. He approached us and said, listen, I'm coming in on weekends, I'm working long hours, I'm still not getting the lift. I'm not getting the results that I need. So right away, we knew 2 things about Connie. He has a big E and he has a big G. He's working late, he's coming in on weekends. We can work with that, okay? So Connie approached us and we shadowed him. We observed his interactions. And right away, within minutes, we knew exactly what was going on. Connie had success in 4 other offices. Excuse me. He had success in 1 office. He was struggling in 4 other offices. And he couldn't quite figure out what was going on. So as we observed his interactions, we knew exactly what was happening. Now get this. Connie was in financial services. And as he began his interactions, he would have these binders, 32 pages apiece. And in every interaction, he's whipping out these binders and he's going through every page, line by line, making sure that the client or prospect knew exactly what he was delivering in terms of information. Now, right away, we knew something was wrong, okay? Right away, we knew that he had a high need for information. And as we tested him out and evaluated him, he scored a 90 in the analyzer quadrant. 90, from 1 to 100, he scored a 90. That's high. And so we started working with Connie and we shared with him, Connie, not everybody wants to see all this information. And he comes back to us and says, well, I'm very successful in this 1 office. Now, is anyone familiar with Texas? Well, let me help you. In Galveston, there's a major industry there, NASA. So as Connie is sitting down with these rocket scientists and engineers and going through these binders, there's a love fest because they're analyzers. But in the other 4 offices, not so much. So what am I saying, gang? Listen, buyers are more sophisticated. As salespeople, the challenge or the trap that we fall into at times is we impose our selling style on everyone that we talk to. Not everyone buys the way you sell, okay? We actually force that prospect or buyer to conform to the way that we like to communicate and sell. We found that a more effective approach is, instead of imposing your style, recognize your buyer first, and you make the adjustments on your side. Does that make sense? Recognize if you're talking to an analyzer, be deliberate with the information. Share it. They love that. That's how you meet that emotional need. If you're talking to a person that has a high need for control, instead of dominating the interaction, ask questions. Allow them to answer and make decisions. If you're talking to a performer, allow them to think that they're your #1 client. If you're talking to an empathizer, be relational. Share with them. Share with them. Let me tell you something. Customers and prospects find value in your ability to connect. I'll say it again. Customers and prospects find value in your ability to connect with them emotionally. Oftentimes we get into this argument, or I shouldn't say argument, but debate with prospects and buyers around price. Let me share another tidbit with you. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. If you can help that client or prospect recognize the value that you're bringing, the price does not matter. Starbucks has proved it for us. Okay? All right, so let's talk about this some more. So the key, gang, is having balance. Having balance, recognizing where you're out of balance in your different quadrants and balancing it out so that you have mass appeal. Because in a minute, I'm going to show you how, without even knowing it, you're probably positively influencing some relationships and you're probably negatively influencing some relationships. So we're going to talk about those, okay? But the key is balance. You know what's interesting? You know what the TV producers in Hollywood have figured out? If you get people that are out of balance, in other words, they're out in the white zone, and you put them on one island or in one house, you got a reality show. Seriously, that's why those reality shows are so delicious. Because we'll watch it and think, who would act like that? You know, I had a friend of mine who was trying to get on a reality show. She's a former model. She was trying to get on the show called She's Got the Look. It was a reality show about former models. And she got a second cast call, had to fly out to LA. And she's so excited, sharing the information with me. And I'm just sitting back, just with a smile on my face, didn't say anything. She goes out, second cast, didn't get the call. Came back very upset. And I had to share with her, there was no way you were getting on that show. And she couldn't believe I said that, but I was just trying, it was my way of comforting. But I had to share with her, there was no way you were going to get on that show. She said, well, why not? I said, you're normal. Those TV shows, they don't want normal, they want extreme. When you have extreme out of balance behavior, you have unpredictability. And when you have that, you have entertainment. And that's why we watch the reality shows. So let me share with you how this works. So again, the key is balance. So there was an NFL sports star by the name of Terrell Owens. Anybody familiar with Terrell Owens? Can we all agree that he has a high need for attention? Just a little bit? Okay. All right. So back in 2004, he actually played in the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. Any Philly fans in here? Philadelphia Eagle fans? Okay, you poor thing. All right, you can relate to this. So he played in the Super Bowl. He actually was not even supposed to play. He had a hurt ankle 2 games prior. Wasn't sure. It was a game time decision. He actually ended up playing. He had 100 yards catching and had a great game. Great game. But they lost. You remember that? They lost. But had they won, he probably would have been an MVP candidate for the Super Bowl, major stage. Okay? Now, because of that accomplishment, because of his performance in that game, we would say that he was balanced. He was confident. He was here. He was balanced. Now, after that season, the very next season, he tried to renegotiate a contract that he had just signed that year based on his performance, you know, because he would have been an MVP candidate. You need to recognize that I am now a franchise player, and he tried to get a new deal. Didn't get it right away. He held out of training camp that following season. Now, as he held out of camp, he did what only a performer would do. He called a press conference so that TV cameras and crew can come watch him work out on his front lawn. Anybody remember seeing that? It was hilarious. He's doing push-ups and sit-ups on his front lawn, and the cameras are there watching him. It was unbelievable. Can you imagine being the PR person setting that up? Yeah, we'd like you to come out to T.O.'s house, watch him work out. He's going to do some one-handers, some jumping jacks. But they showed up. They were there, right? So, held out of training camp, still didn't get his deal. Eventually came back to camp, had a Hall of Fame, I shouldn't say Hall of Fame, but he had a great season. So during the time that he was calling his own press conferences, he became more animated in the media and playful in the media. Came back to camp, came back that season, scored his 100th touchdown, major milestone for an NFL receiver. Anybody recall what Philadelphia did to celebrate that? You remember? They did absolutely nothing. What do you think that does to a person with a high need for attention? He started blasting his teammates, his quarterback, his coaches, his ownership, to the point where, again, he was a distraction, and it got to a point where they couldn't control him, and they had to let him go. They had to cut him because he was way out of balance, way out of bounds with his distractions. So how does a person go from being a potential MVP candidate to being completely disconnected with the organization within months? Listen, he had an emotional need that grew way out of balance, and it was never brought back into check. This happens all day long in sales organizations. You have salespeople where the emotional need becomes more important, and it goes way out of balance, and is never brought back into check. This is real. This is real. We're seeing it with a lot of our young entertainers and young athletes today. Britney Spears, 2002, Princess of Pop. 2006, shaving her head in public for no apparent reason. It's real. Tiger Woods, I'm not going to touch that one. Not going to touch it. But my point is this, gang. In sales, we can spiral out of being productive to levels of being completely unproductive and disengaged. Any of you manage salespeople in here? You got any sales managers in here? Gang, listen, our jobs as sales managers is to keep our people balanced so that they're fully engaged and fully productive. We have to recognize their emotional needs as well. They're our customers. We often tell, any of you street level? You got offices on the street level? No? A couple? Okay. We often tell people, if you're street level and you see that customer coming in with that bright red Porsche, and he chirps that alarm 5 or 6 times before he walks in, you may want to compliment him on his car. Why? Because you create that emotional connection within seconds. If you do this right, gang, within seconds, people will develop a liking for you and have no idea why. No idea. It's almost illegal. They'll think there's something about, I don't know what it is, but I like you. And we all know that people like to do business with people that they like. So you want to forge a long-term relationship within seconds? Recognize your buyer and the emotional needs that they have and adjust your style to them, okay? The key is balance, gang. That's what the bullseye represents in the middle. You want to be able to have mass appeal to the different people that you're going to be coming across. Instead of imposing, recognize those buyers and adjust to them to meet their emotional needs. All right, now let's go back to this. Based off what we talked about so far, what type of buyer do you think you're dealing with? Somebody say commander? Everybody agree? How do you know?
The captain's chair.
Yeah, notice the chairs. It's very subtle, but now that you know the intelligence, you can see it. Notice the executive chair. Also notice the two minion chairs. Notice the dominance of the desk over this little slither of wood. It's real. This is a person that's trying to establish authority in the environment. If you want to connect with this person right away, you want to allow them to think that they're controlling the interaction, but it's really you pulling the strings. So before I asked you guys, where would you sit? Some people said they would sit in the left chair. Some people said they would sit in the right chair. Some people would stand. Some people would move the chairs around. What do you think would happen if you start moving furniture around in the controller's office? Right? The correct answer, you sit where they instruct you to sit. Seriously. And it's, again, it's not you coming in as a minion. It's not you coming in all nervous and just scared of the person, but it's you coming in, thanking them for the meeting, and asking them, where would you like me to sit? And right away, that controller's thinking, oh, I like you. Oh, I like this person. I don't know why yet, but I like them. And all you're doing is you're meeting that emotional need that they have. That's all you're doing, okay? This is how you're gonna start separating yourself from your competition and driving more value in your relationships. Okay? What about this office? What do you think you're dealing with here? Analyzer, everybody agree? This is an analyzer's office. How do you know? Yeah, analyzers are opposite of performers. They're attention avoided. They can't stand a lot of attention. That's why you see the chair facing all of the forms of information, all the resources of information, the computer, the printer, the TV, right? But there's a quick tip-off that you're dealing with an analyzer here. Storage space. Storage space. Storage space for what? Information. We think an analyzer sounds like on the phone. They ask a lot of questions. A lot of questions. I mean, a lot of questions. Again, they're not asking questions to irritate you. I want you to be very clear. It's that need. It's that emotional need. Something happened in the background where that high need for information is existed. And they have to ask a lot of questions, okay? They also tend to have the longer sales cycle, by the way. Any of you ever had to sell to an analyzer? Yeah, yeah. They have a longer sales cycle. I'm going to show you how to accelerate that here in a second, okay? What about this one? Empathizer. How do you know? Got the nice, comfortable chair, got the bottle of water, some candy, family photos to share, right? Aww. They want to make sure you're comfortable. They want to make sure you're comfortable. Empathizers love to do business face to face. They love being knee to knee with the people that they're doing business with. They love to engage in small talk, by the way. Okay? So we're going to talk about some things that you can do to positively influence and some things that you may be doing right now that's negatively influencing these relationships. This is important, gang. I'm telling you, this stuff is real. And if you learn how to master just these basic concepts that I'm talking about today, it will make a dramatic improvement in your business relationships. But if you really pay close attention, it will have a significant impact in your personal relationships as well. Okay? All right, so one thing you have to understand about commanders and performers is that they have a lot of energy. And so when you're talking to these people, kick your energy level up. Kick it up a notch. Because again, they love talking to people that have just as much energy as they do. If you come at them with low energy, you're going to turn them off. Okay? On the flip side, you have quite the opposite with your analyzers and empathizers. They don't like a whole lot of energy coming at them. And if you come at them with too much energy, you're going to turn them off. They're not going to like you, and they're not going to know why. But there's just something that's turning them off, and it's just based on the tone. So now, what I want to encourage you to do as you're interacting with your prospects and buyers, I want you to pay attention to their tone to start. within the first few seconds, you'll know exactly where they are, top or bottom. And you can start making your adjustments accordingly. Start paying attention to the tone, okay? I want to talk a little bit about fears for a second to give you an idea of what's really driving these behaviors. Why does a controller have to have so much control? A commander have to have so much control? The reason is the biggest fear is helplessness. Helplessness. One of our partners, if he was here, he would share this story with you. This is why I'm telling you. But his wife is a huge, huge controller. Huge. Huge. Seriously. And the reason is because as she was growing up as a kid, she was raised by 2 alcoholic parents. She used to have to steal food to eat, her and her sisters. That experience created a huge fear of helplessness. And it's manifested itself as an adult. So now as an adult, she has to control everything. He tells a story, if he and a family pulls up in the drive-thru at McDonald's and nobody answers the little squawk box on the drive-thru menu right away, and he's driving, he knows just to lean back because here she comes. Hello, we've been here for 10 minutes. Right? And God forbid they forget a sauce for one of the nuggets. Because he knows if the sauce is not in the bag, just to pull over, and there she goes into the restaurant. And he has 2 boys, Maddie and Nicholas. Maddie's the oldest. He's just like mom. He follows mom because he likes to watch her throw down. Right? But that experience growing up created that huge fear of helplessness. Let's go to the analyzers. The analyzers have a biggest fear of making a mistake. That's why they require so much information. They need to make sure that they avoid making that mistake. Again, when they're asking you questions about a specific fund or a specific cost or a specific commission, it's not to irritate you. It's to gather the information to avoid making a mistake. Okay? Performers, their biggest fear is insignificance. That's why they crave being center of attention. If anybody knows the T.O. story, you would know that T.O. dad was away from the home when he was a kid. He was raised by his grandmother because his mother was on drugs. That experience created a fear of being insignificant. And it's created the need for attention that exists in him today as an adult. Okay? Empathizers, their biggest fear is rejection. That's why they're such good listeners. They want to make sure that they're accepted in their environment. They want to make sure that everybody is happy in the environment. Nobody's rejected in the environment. You may have talked to these folks before, the empathizers. The empathizers are always the ones that will hit you with, after sitting with you down for 30 minutes in an interaction or whatever time it takes, they head nod throughout the interaction. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. When you try to close out the interaction, they hit you with, well, I need to talk to my spouse about that. Because they don't want the rejection. They don't want the rejection. If that analyzer, if they don't hear what they think they need to hear in the interaction, and you try to close out that interaction with them, they'll hit you with, you know, let me think about this a little bit more. Can you send me some information on that? How many of us have heard that before? That's what they're really saying is, I'm scared. I haven't heard what I need to hear to reduce this fear. So until I figure it out on my own or find it on my own, I'm not going to do anything. Okay? So let's talk about how to accelerate this a little bit. Okay? Because I've been in financial services all my life, and my experience is that you're going to be talking to analyzers more often than not in financial services. So I want to share with you some things that can help accelerate the sales interaction. So I want you to write these down. They're not in the presentation, but these are called the 7 inspirational benefits. the 7 inspirational benefits that inspire people to take action. Okay? 7 inspirational benefits that inspire people to take action. The first one is make money. If you can show someone how to make some money, you have their attention. The next one is save money. Save money. Number 3, save time. Save time. Number 4, offer convenience. Offer convenience. Number 5, offer safety. Offer safety. Number 6, reduce risk. Reduce risk. And number 7, minimize worry. Minimize worry. Okay? Make money, save time, offer convenience, offer safety, reduce risk, minimize worry. Okay, now, let's go back to the analyzer for a second. We now know that analyzers have a high need for what? Information. And their biggest fear is what? Making mistakes. Out of those 7, which ones do you think resonate more effectively with an analyzer buyer? Risk, reducing risk, minimizing worry, safety. In your dialogue, I'm going to encourage you to get used to using those 3 benefits when you're talking to your buyers and prospects, because those are the things that they're waiting to hear to take action. Okay? As they're talking to you, that fear of making a mistake is on a constant rise. And until they hear things like reduce risk, minimize worry, offer safety, they get calm and they're ready to move forward. If they don't hear it, that fear of making a mistake is going to stay at an elevated level. And that's when they're going to hit you with, let me think about it. Can you send me some information on that? Okay? So get used to those. Let's talk about the controller. Which ones do you think the controller would be most interested in? Save money, save time. The third one would be convenience. Save money, save time, and convenience. What about that performer? There's only one. It's real easy. Making money. That's all they care about. That's it. Now, the empathizer is a little tricky. Let's see if you can figure this one out. There are 2 for the empathizer. Which 2 do you think will resonate more effectively with an empathizer buyer? Minimize worry, because empathizers are easily overwhelmed. Easily overwhelmed. Okay? But there's one more. Not safety. Not convenience. Who said it? Time. Time for who? Family, friends, anybody in their relational circle. Okay? So if you can talk to an empathizer of how they can have more time with the grandkids, or have more time with their spouse, allow you to do your job as the financial advisor, that inspires them to want to take action. Okay? All right, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to try to give you back the 10 minutes that we were behind. All right, now, a couple other things. In your dialogue, I want you to start paying attention to the emotional behaviors of your buyers. We talked about tone, top half, bottom half. Top half, kick up the energy level. Bottom half, tone it down. Okay? Now, I want to encourage you to recognize when to go left and right. Okay? Controllers and analyzers need things to be logical. They need logic. And another thing, by the way, that they need is conviction. In other words, they need to hear it in your voice, the conviction of your recommendations. If they hear some hesitancy or not being confident in what you're saying, they're not going to buy it. They're not going to buy it. They need to hear that conviction in your voice. So in other words, the lefties, the controller, the commander, analyzers, they need logic. The folks on the right, your performer empathizers, they need rapport. They need rapport. That appeals to them most. They're the ones that want to have small talk. They want to know about your background, your family. Be willing to share.